what the industry learned too late. At first, it didn't feel like a mistake. It felt like momentum. One success followed another. Confidence grew, and by the time doubt appeared, the direction was already locked in. That is how most industries drift, not through bad decision, but through unchallenged ones. To understand what was learned too late, we need to step back and look at the pattern that repeated across decades of automotive progress. Each breakthrough solved a problem. Each solution hardened into doctrine, and each doctrine eventually became a limit. Efficiency was optimized, then over-optimized. Automation reduced error, then reduced awareness. Complexity added capability, then added fragility. Every advance worked, until it quietly crowded out something essential. The industry rarely noticed in real time. Metrics stayed positive. Launches succeeded. Reviews praised innovation. From the outside, progress looked undeniable. But beneath the surface, signals were being missed, not technical signals, but human ones. Drivers felt more removed. Engineers felt more constrained. Products felt heavier with intention, not lighter. Cars became better at meeting objectives, and worse at adapting when those objectives no longer match reality. The warning signs appeared slowly. Systems that demanded constant updates. Interfaces that distracted instead of clarified. Safety features that corrected mistakes but discouraged skill. Designs that aged faster than expected because they were optimized for moments, not years. Each issue was addressed individually, rarely collectively, and that was the deeper failure. The industry had become exceptional at solving isolated problems, while ignoring how those solutions interacted over time. Progress was measured in gains, not in balance. In capabilities added, not burdens created. By the time the pattern became undeniable, it was everywhere. Cars were safer, but drivers were less engaged. Vehicles were more efficient, but more fragile. Technology was smarter, but less forgiving. The industry had succeeded itself into a corner. What was learned too late was not a technical lesson. It was a philosophical one. That progress without reflection accelerates blind spots. That optimization without restraint creates brittleness. And that innovation, when detached from lived experience, eventually turns against the people it was meant to serve. The industry didn't collapse, but it did pause. And in that pause, it began asking the question it should have asked all along. Not how far can we push this, but what are we losing along the way? As those questions surfaced, the answers were uncomfortable. Many of the industry's proudest achievements carried hidden costs that only became visible with time. Costs no launch event could reveal. Engineers began connecting dots they had once treated separately. They saw how safety systems alter behavior, how convenience reduced attentiveness, how optimization narrowed tolerance for the unexpected. Each solution solved yesterday's problem while quietly creating tomorrow's. Ownership data told the story clearly. Cars performed brilliantly when conditions matched assumptions. When they didn't, systems struggled. Not catastrophically, but awkwardly. Handoffs felt abrupt. Interfaces felt busy. Drivers felt uncertain about what the car expected from them. That uncertainty mattered, because trust is built not on capability alone, but on understanding. When people don't know why something behaves the way it does, confidence erodes, even if performance remains high. The industry had underestimated that. Designers had focused on outcomes, not relationships. Cars were treated as products to be optimized, not partners to be understood. As long as metrics improved, deeper questions were deferred. Those questions returned anyway. Why did drivers feel more fatigued despite better systems? Why did systems require more explanation instead of less? Why did reliability improve in some areas while fragility increased in others? The answer wasn't failure. It was imbalance. Progress had become uneven. Certain dimensions advanced rapidly while others lagged. Human factors trailed technology. Long-term behavior trailed short-term success. Integration lagged behind innovation. Once seen, the pattern was impossible to ignore. The industry had been sprinting through a marathon. It had optimized speed at the cost of endurance. Every step forward made course correction harder, not easier. Leaders began acknowledging this privately. They recognized that reversing direction would be painful. Platforms were committed, supply chains aligned, expectations set, but continuing unchanged carried its own risk, one that no amount of iteration could fully resolve. The lesson emerging was not about slowing down. It was about widening perspective, understanding that progress is not a line, but balance, that removing friction entirely can remove resilience, and that systems built without room for human imperfection eventually struggle when reality intrudes. The industry hadn't failed. It had learned, late but not too late, that progress without harmony is fragile. And that realization set the stage for a reckoning not defined by collapse, but by recalibration. The recalibration did not arrive as a single decision. It arrived as hesitation, as projects delayed, as features quietly reconsidered, as questions once dismissed began resurfacing in meetings that used to move too fast. Engineers started pushing back, not against innovation, but against accumulation. They asked why systems needed to do so much at once, why interfaces demanded constant attention, why updates solved problems users never felt, while introducing new ones they did. For the first time in years, subtraction became a serious proposal. Teams revisited designs already in production. They studied long-term data instead of launch feedback. They listened more closely to service reports, owner behavior, and edge cases that rarely made headlines. The story they told was consistent. Cars weren't failing dramatically. They were failing quietly. Small frictions compounded. Minor misunderstandings stacked up. Cognitive load increased just enough to matter over time. The experience of ownership drifted away from what engineers believed they had built. That gap became impossible to ignore. It revealed that the industry had been optimizing for moments, tests, launches, reviews, rather than for years of use. Success was front-loaded. Consequences were delayed. And delayed consequences are the easiest to miss. Once acknowledged, priorities shifted. Designers began treating clarity as a feature. Engineers treated longevity as performance. Safety teams focused on prevention instead of response. Software teams slowed release cycles to protect stability rather than novelty. None of this felt revolutionary. That was the point. The industry realized too late that the most important improvements are rarely dramatic. They are structural. They reshape how decisions are made long before products are visible. The hardest lesson was cultural. Progress had been framed as acceleration for so long that slowing down felt like failure. But reflection proved necessary. Without it, every gain carried hidden debt, and debt, when ignored, compounds. The industry learned that innovation does not disappear when restrained. It matures, and that maturity was essential if cars were to remain tools that serve people, not systems people had to manage. The reckoning was not about abandoning technology. It was about remembering why it existed in the first place. To reduce burden, not to replace judgment, not to overwhelm experience, but to support human life as it actually unfolds, messy, imperfect, and unpredictable. That understanding marked the emotional peak of the story, because it forced the industry to confront itself. And what it saw was not failure. It was imbalance, recognized just in time to correct. The resolution didn't come with a dramatic pivot. There was no declaration that the past had been wrong. Instead, the industry absorbed the lesson quietly, through changed priorities, slower decisions, and a renewed respect for balance. Cars began to feel different again. Not simpler in appearance, but calmer in use. Systems explained themselves less because they demanded less explanation. Interfaces stopped competing for attention. Technology receded just enough to let experience breathe. What the industry learned too late reshaped how progress was judged. Success was no longer measured only by what could be added, automated, or optimized. It was measured by what could endure, by how systems behaved over time, by whether people felt supported rather than managed. That shift mattered, because the most dangerous blind spot had never been technical. It was philosophical. The belief that progress was always forward, never inward. That speed mattered more than reflection. That capability mattered more than coherence. Those beliefs faded. In their place grew something quieter and stronger, a recognition that restraint is not regression, that leaving space for human judgment is not weakness. And that technology reaches its highest value when it respects the limits of the people it serves. The industry did not reverse course. It adjusted its heading. And that adjustment may prove to be its most important innovation of all. Because when progress learns to listen, it stops outrunning itself. It becomes sustainable. It becomes human. And it becomes worthy of the trust placed in it every time someone turns a key, presses a button, and steps onto the road. So what do you think? Did the industry learn in time, or are we still catching up to the cost of moving too fast? Subscribe to join the journey. What the